The yellowed envelope trembled between Gabriel Santos' fingers as the October rain hammered against the windows of his small apartment in Sao Paulo. Inside, a faded photograph of two young soldiers, impeccable uniforms, gazes that held a secret that cost everything. On the back, a single sentence written in trembling handwriting. I loved you in silence. I will love you forever. Rafael. Gabriel was 78 years old now. Rafael had left 3 months earlier, taking with him 6 decades of a love that the world insisted on denying. But there was a story that needed to be told. A story of courage, sacrifice, and a love so powerful that it survived war, prejudice, and time. This is their story. The love story that no one could know. January 1963. The suffocating heat of Rio de Janeiro made the military uniform even more uncomfortable for the new recruits arriving at Galeão Air Base. Gabriel Santos, 18 years old, had just left behind his small town in the interior of Minas Gerais. The son of conservative farmers, he carried not only a suitcase of clothes, but also a secret that had terrified him since adolescence. He was different. He always knew. While his friends talked about bright-eyed girls at school, Gabriel felt his heart race when João, the blacksmith's son, walked shirtless through the square. But this was something that couldn't be named, much less admitted. So he learned to hide it, to smile in the right places, to feign interest in the right conversations. Military service would be his chance to fix himself, as his father had proudly said when he said goodbye. Gabriel wanted to believe it. He needed to believe it. The line of recruits moved slowly under the scorching sun. Gabriel held his suitcase tightly, observing the other young men around him. Nervous faces, some trying to feign confidence they clearly didn't feel. That's when he saw him. Rafael Mendes was 3 people ahead in line. Slightly disheveled black hair, tan skin, dark eyes that seemed to hold storms. He laughed at something another recruit had said, and there was a lightness about him that contrasted with the military rigidity of the environment. When Rafael turned his head, his eyes met Gabriel's for just a second that changed everything. Gabriel felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. That look wasn't just casual. There was something there, a recognition, a connection he couldn't name but that made him forget how to breathe. Rafael smiled, a small, almost imperceptible smile, before turning away again. Gabriel spent the rest of the afternoon trying to convince himself that he had imagined it all. Fate or chance placed Gabriel and Rafael in the same barracks. 12 bunk beds, 24 young men from different parts of Brazil, all trying to navigate the new reality of military life. Gabriel chose a bunk bed in the corner, hoping to go unnoticed. Is the one on top free? The voice came from behind him. Gabriel turned around and there was Rafael, suitcase in hand, that same small smile on his face. Okay, Gabriel managed to answer, his voice coming out higher pitched than he intended. Great, I'm Rafael. Rafael Mendes. From Rio, North Zone. He extended his hand. Gabriel. Gabriel Santos. Interior of Minas. Rafael's hand was warm, the grip firm. Gabriel let go too quickly, feeling his cheeks heat up. From Minas, right? First time in Rio. First time outside of Minas, actually. Rafael whistled softly. And I've already parachuted into the military. Brave. I had no choice. My father. Me too. Mine said he was going to make me a real man. Rafael said this in a tone that Gabriel couldn't decipher. There was something beneath the words, a bitter irony. That first night, while the 24 recruits tried to sleep under the noise of the noisy fans, Gabriel stayed awake, listening to Rafael's breathing in the bunk above. He wondered if that feeling in his chest, that tightness that was both painful and sweet at the same time, was what books called love. But that was impossible. It had to be impossible. Basic training was brutal. Waking up at 5 in the morning, grueling physical exercises, rigid discipline, superiors yelling at the slightest mistake. Many recruits cried in secret at night. Others gave up in the first few weeks. Gabriel and Rafael supported each other from the start. When Gabriel couldn't complete the push-ups, Rafael would stand by his side doing a few more to motivate him. When Rafael messed up the march and got scolded by the sergeant, Gabriel would practice with him after dinner, in the empty courtyard under the stars. They became inseparable in a way that was accepted in that environment: military camaraderie, brotherhood in arms. No one questioned when they sat together in the mess hall, when they studied together in the library, when they chose to be partners in double exercises. But there were moments when their fingers touched while turning a book and lingered a second longer. Moments when Rafael would put his hand on Gabriel's shoulder to make a joke and leave it there, heavy and warm. Moments when they looked at each other across the crowded dorm and the world around them disappeared. It was in April when it happened. The dorm was empty. The others had gone out to see a football game at the neighboring base. Gabriel had stayed because he had a headache. Rafael appeared 15 minutes later with aspirin he had gotten from the infirmary. "I thought you went to the game," Gabriel said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "And leave you here suffering? What kind of partner would I be?" Rafael sat next to him, too close. Gabriel could feel the warmth of his body. "You didn't need to." "I know." Rafael handed him the aspirin and a glass of water. Their fingers touched. Neither of them let go. "Rafael." Gabriel's voice was a whisper. "Gabriel, I need to tell you something. Something I've never told anyone." Rafael's eyes were fixed on their intertwined fingers. "I came to the military because my father found out. He found out about me. About who I really am." Gabriel's heart stopped. "He found me with a friend. It was a kiss, just a kiss. But he saw and said I was a disgrace, that he was going to send me to the military to straighten me out or disown me." Rafael looked up, tears glistening in his eyes. "But here, meeting you, I realized there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just in the wrong place, with the wrong people. Except," he squeezed Gabriel's hand. "Except you." Gabriel couldn't breathe. All the words he had kept for years, all the fears, all the unspoken truths were stuck in his throat. "I know it might just be me," Rafael continued, his voice breaking. "Maybe you don't feel anything, but I need to talk because it's killing me, Gabriel. Every day that passes, every time you smile at me, every night I sleep knowing you're a meter away and I can't. Gabriel kissed him. It was desperate, awkward, perfect. Years of denial, self-hatred, and loneliness dissolved in that kiss. Rafael's hands held Gabriel's face as if he were the most precious thing in the world, and Gabriel felt tears, his own tears, streak down his face. When they separated, both were crying. "I thought it was just me," Gabriel whispered. "I thought there was something wrong with me. I tried to fix it. I tried to change, but Rafael," he held the other boy's face. "I can't stop thinking about you. I can't pretend anymore." "Then don't pretend." Rafael rested his forehead against Gabriel's. "At least not with me. Not when we're alone." And so it began. A love that had to be hidden, lived in stolen glances and secret touches. They developed their own language. A touch on the shoulder meant, "I love you." Adjusting the watch meant, "You look beautiful today." Scratching the ear meant, "I miss you." At night, when everyone was asleep, Rafael would climb down from the bunk bed and lie down next to Gabriel, and they would whisper about dreams and fears until dawn approached. Gabriel discovered that Rafael wanted to be an architect, that he drew imaginary buildings in the margins of his training notebooks. Rafael discovered that Gabriel wrote poems that he never showed to anyone, verses about loneliness and hope. "When all this is over," Rafael whispered one night, "when we finish the job, we'll go to Sao Paulo. It's bigger there, we can go unnoticed. We'll rent a small apartment, just for us. And your family? Mine? We'll create a new one. The two of us. That's enough." Gabriel wanted to believe. God, how he wanted to believe. March 1964 changed everything. The military coup that overthrew the democratically elected government brought a new era of repression and control. For Gabriel and Rafael, who had been promoted and remained in the armed forces, the atmosphere became even more dangerous. The military dictatorship had clear enemies: communists, subversives, and moral deviance, a term that explicitly included homosexuals. Purges began in the armed forces. Suspected soldiers were investigated, interrogated, dishonorably discharged, or worse. "You have to be more careful," Rafael said one night, his voice tense. They were in a small storage room they had discovered, the only place where they could truly be alone. Colonel Braga ordered an investigation into 3 sergeants last week. They said it was inappropriate behavior between men. They were expelled. Gabriel felt his blood run cold. But did they have proof? You don't need proof. Just suspicion. Rafael gripped his hand tightly. If anyone suspects us, no one will suspect us. We're careful. Gabriel, I can't lose you. I'd rather never touch you again than lose you. Hey! Gabriel lifted Rafael's chin. Everything will be all right. We'll be even more careful, but we won't stop living. We won't let them win. But the fear was always present now, a constant shadow. They stopped meeting at the warehouse for weeks. They barely looked at each other in public. Gabriel felt like he was slowly dying, having Rafael so close and so far at the same time. In 1966, both Gabriel and Rafael were promoted to lieutenants and transferred to instruction positions at the same base. It should have been good news, more responsibility, better pay, the possibility of leaving the base on weekends. But the promotion came at a price. Colonel Braga, known for his relentless hunt for unsuitable elements, began to observe them more closely. He had a way of showing up when you least expected him, small, cruel eyes always assessing, looking for flaws. "Lieutenant Santos," he said one day, stopping Gabriel in the hallway, "I've noticed that you and Lieutenant Mendez are quite close." Gabriel's heart raced, but he kept his voice steady. "We've been colleagues for 3 years, sir. Roommates and now instructors in the same unit." Camaraderie is important in the armed forces. But there's a line, Lieutenant. A line between proper camaraderie and... He left the sentence hanging, laden with threat. "I'm sure you understand." "Perfectly, sir." "Great. And since we're on the subject, perhaps it's time to think about establishing more conventional routes. Do you have a girlfriend, Lieutenant Santos?" The trap was set. "No, sir. Service has been occupying all my time." "I understand. Well, my wife has a niece. Pretty girl, respectable family. I'll arrange a dinner. You'll come." It wasn't an invitation. It was an order. That night, Gabriel told Rafael about the conversation. They were in a seedy bar on the outskirts of town, a dark place where no one from the base would go. "He suspects," Gabriel said, swirling his beer glass between his hands. "And now he's going to use this niece to test me. Then you'll go." Rafael wasn't looking at him. "What do you mean?" "You'll go to the dinner, you'll be polite to the girl, you'll play his game." Rafael finally looked up, and his eyes were red. "And I'll do the same if necessary. We'll find fake girlfriends, Gabriel. It's the only way to protect ourselves." "No, I can't. I don't want to kiss another person. I don't want to pretend." "You think I want to?" Rafael practically shouted, then looked around nervously and lowered his voice. "Do you think I want to see you with someone else? But what else can we do? If we don't do this, we'll be found out, expelled, arrested, or worse. And then we'll never see each other again." Gabriel knew he was right. He hated it, but he was right. Then began the most painful charade of their lives. Gabriel started dating Marcia, the colonel's niece. She was kind, a little shy, completely oblivious to the fact that her boyfriend's heart belonged to someone else. Rafael started dating Beatriz, a teacher he met at a base dance. In the eyes of the world, they were 2 successful young officers in respectable heterosexual relationships. They appeared together at events with their respective girlfriends, always maintaining the appropriate distance, always playing the role of simple friends. But in the rare moments when they managed to be alone, a car parked on a dark street, a cheap hotel in another city where no one knew them, they clung to each other desperately. "I love you," Gabriel whispered against Rafael's skin. "Only you. Always you." "I know. Me too. This is real. The rest is just survival." December 1967. Brazil, under pressure from the United States and in the midst of the Cold War, decided to send a contingent of military observers to Vietnam. It was a dangerous, poorly planned mission, motivated more by politics than by strategy. Gabriel and Rafael were on the list of those summoned. When the news arrived, they looked at each other across the briefing room full of other officers, and all the color drained from their faces. Vietnam meant death. It meant separation. It meant they might never see each other again. That night, violating all the rules, Rafael went to the apartment Gabriel had recently rented, part of the putting down roots charade that Colonel Braga had suggested. He knocked on the door at 3 in the morning, in the rain, and when Gabriel opened it, Rafael threw himself into his arms. "We're not going," Rafael cried. "I can't go to a war and maybe never see you again, never touch you again. Let's run away, Gabriel. Let's go to Uruguay, to Argentina, anywhere far from here." Gabriel wanted to say yes, God as he wished, but he knew the truth. If we run away, they'll hunt us down. Desertion during conscription is punishable by death. And they'll investigate why we ran away. They'll find out about us. Our families will know. He held Rafael's face. "Let's go to Vietnam together. Let's stay alive. Let's take care of each other like we always have. And when we come back, and if we don't come back, then at least we had this. We had this love. There are people who live their whole lives and never feel what we feel for each other." Rafael kissed him with such intensity that Gabriel felt like he might break. They made love that night as if it were the last time, memorizing every touch, every breath, every whisper. "Promise me one thing," Gabriel said as the sun began to rise. "Promise me that, no matter what happens, no matter how hard it is, we'll find a way to stay together. Even if it takes years, decades. Promise me. I promise." Rafael intertwined his little finger with Gabriel's, a gesture they had adopted as their own secret oath. "In this life and in all others, I am yours, and I am yours." 2 months later, they were on a military plane bound for Vietnam, carrying not only weapons and supplies, but also a secret worth more than their lives. The heat of Vietnam was unlike anything Gabriel had ever experienced. It wasn't just hot. It was humid, suffocating, inescapable. Sweat poured constantly, skin never dried. The sensation of cooking alive was constant. But the heat was the least of their problems. The Brazilian contingent was assigned to work with American forces in the Mekong Delta, a region of dense jungle, muddy rivers, and villages that could be friend or foe depending on the time of day. The war here had no clear lines, no distinct uniforms. Anyone could be Viet Cong. Any bush could hide a deadly trap. Gabriel and Rafael were placed in different platoons, a decision that, ironically, probably saved their lives by avoiding suspicion, but which tortured them daily. They only saw each other during briefings and occasionally at the base when both platoons were back at the same time. The first time Gabriel saw real combat, he vomited afterward. They were patrolling a trail when the ambush happened. Shots came from all sides, soldiers screaming, the smell of gunpowder and blood. The soldier next to Gabriel, a 19-year-old boy from Serra named João, had half his face ripped off by an explosion. Gabriel fired back without thinking, his training taking over. When it was over, 3 Viet Cong bodies lay on the trail, and Gabriel had killed another human being for the first time in his life. That night, back at the base, he found Rafael in the communal showers. They couldn't talk, they couldn't touch each other, but Rafael looked at him, and Gabriel saw the same horror reflected there. Rafael had also seen death today. He had also killed. They became different creatures in Vietnam. War did that to people. It took young, idealistic men and turned them into harder, colder things. But somehow, with each other, they kept a spark of humanity burning. Correspondence was complicated. All letters were potentially censored, read by senior officers looking for sensitive information or inappropriate behavior. So Gabriel and Rafael developed a code. Gabriel wrote to his sister in Minas Gerais. Rafael wrote to his younger brother in Rio de Janeiro. But in the letters, hidden among banal accounts of military life and questions about family, were secret messages. "I found a friend here who reminds me of our neighbor. the one with the kind eyes who always helped us. I miss him every day. Gabriel saying he missed Rafael. The sky here is beautiful at night, full of stars. I remember when we watched stars on the roof and you said that each one was a dream waiting to come true. I still believe that. Rafael recalling promises made. I keep a 4-leaf clover in my shirt pocket, close to my heart. It's my luck. Gabriel talking about the photo of Rafael he carried hidden. They became masters at saying, I love you, without ever using those words. But there were also the letters they wrote and never sent. Honest letters without code, pouring out everything they felt. Gabriel kept his in a coffee tin buried near his bed at the base. Rafael kept his in a hollow Bible. One of Gabriel's letters read, Rafael, I killed 3 men today. I don't know their names, I didn't see their faces clearly before I shot. But I know they had families, people who loved them, dreams they will never realize. And I took that away from them. How do I live with that? How do I wake up tomorrow and continue being human after taking the humanity from others? Then I think of you. I think that if I survive, if I manage to get out of this hell, I will see you again. I will hold your hand. I will kiss you. We will build the life we dreamed of. And that keeps me alive. You keep me human. I love you isn't strong enough. You are literally the reason my heart keeps beating. Forever yours, G. One of Rafael's letters read, Gabriel, I dreamt about you last night. We were in Sao Paulo, in that apartment we always planned. Sunlight streaming through the window, the smell of coffee. You were drawing, I discovered in the dream that you draw now. And I was reading a book. And we weren't doing anything special, just existing in the same space. And it was the most beautiful thing in the world. I woke up crying because I realized that simple moments like that, just existing by your side without fear, without hiding, is all I want. I don't need much. Just you. Just peace. I promise we'll have that. Even if it takes a lifetime, we'll have our simple moments. Yours forever, R. May 1969. The war was becoming increasingly brutal. The Americans were losing, although they would never officially admit it. Entire villages were being destroyed under suspicion of harboring Viet Cong. The rules of engagement were becoming increasingly lax. It was then that Gabriel and Rafael received orders to participate in a joint operation, a deep reconnaissance mission in the jungle, searching for a supposed enemy base. It would be the first time in months that they would work together. The team was small, 8 men, including Gabriel and Rafael, led by an American captain named Harris. They would enter the jungle for 5 days, gather intelligence, and leave quietly. Everything went wrong from the start. On the 2nd day, they found not a Viet Cong base, but a field hospital full of wounded civilians, women, children, the elderly. Captain Harris ordered an airstrike on the location. Sir, they're civilians, Gabriel protested. They're VC collaborators. Same thing. Harris spoke on the radio, giving the coordinates. We can't do this, Rafael said, his voice firm. This is a war crime. Harris turned, his weapon now pointed at Rafael. Are you questioning my order, Lieutenant? The rest of the team tensed, weapons half raised, no one knowing which way to point. Gabriel moved slowly, positioning himself between Harris and Rafael. What Lieutenant Mendez meant, sir, is that perhaps we should confirm the presence of enemy forces before calling an attack, so as not to waste military resources. His voice was calm, diplomatic, though every fiber of his being was screaming. Harris looked between them, then slowly lowered his weapon. You have an hour. Do reconnaissance. If you find any evidence of VC, we call the attack. Gabriel and Rafael, along with 2 other soldiers, cautiously approached the field hospital. What they saw would haunt them forever. There were perhaps 40 people there, mostly women and children. Some were terribly wounded, napalm burns, amputated limbs, diseases. A Vietnamese doctor, obviously exhausted, moved among them trying to help with minimal supplies. There were no weapons. There were no soldiers. Only suffering. There's nothing here, Gabriel reported when they returned. Only wounded civilians. Harris seemed disappointed. Well, if there's no VC, there's no reason for the attack. He paused. But didn't you see ammunition? Hidden weapons? No, sir. Nothing. Harris watched them for a long moment. Interesting, because I received information that there's an arms depot in that area. Maybe you didn't search well enough. We searched, sir. There's nothing there. Harris turned away. Well, let's continue the mission then. But that night, while they camped, Gabriel heard Harris on the radio. He was calling for an airstrike anyway, saying there was visual confirmation of enemy presence. Gabriel and Rafael exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. That night, while the camp slept, they returned to the field hospital. They didn't speak Portuguese or Vietnamese fluently, but urgency is a universal language. They gestured, pointed to the sky, to the wounded. The doctor understood. In 2 hours, the field hospital was evacuated. When the planes arrived at dawn and bombed the area, they found only trees and earth. Harris suspected, of course, but he had no proof. And Gabriel and Rafael had an alibi. Other soldiers on the team confirmed that they were in camp all night. They lied, but Harris couldn't prove it. But from that day on, they were marked. Harris had power, and he made it clear that he was watching, waiting for them to make a mistake. You two are trouble, Harris said privately a few weeks later. I see how you look at each other. I see how you protect each other. I don't know what's going on, but I'll find out. And when I find out, he smiled coldly, I'll personally make sure you pay. July 1969. The mission seemed routine, escorting a supply convoy along a road considered relatively safe. Rafael's platoon was leading, Gabriel's in the rear. The explosion occurred without warning. A landmine obliterated the first truck. Then shots coming from the jungle on both sides. It was a perfectly planned ambush, and they fell right into it. Gabriel saw Rafael on the other side of the convoy, shouting orders, trying to organize a defense. Then he saw the Viet Cong soldier emerge from the vegetation, rifle pointed at Rafael's back. He didn't think. He just ran. Gabriel reached Rafael the moment the shot was fired. The bullet that should have hit Rafael pierced Gabriel's shoulder, throwing him back forcefully. Gabriel! Rafael shouted, everything. Every rule, every precaution, every pretense. Forgotten in that moment of pure terror. He threw himself on top of Gabriel, shielding him with his own body while continuing to fire with one hand. The battle lasted only 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. When it ended, 7 Brazilian soldiers were dead, 5 wounded. Gabriel was among the wounded, bleeding heavily, drifting in and out of consciousness. Stay with me, Rafael whispered, tears streaming down his face as he applied pressure to the wound. Please stay with me. You can't leave me, you hear? You promised. You promised we'd stay together. Rafael. Gabriel's voice was weak. If I can't, don't say that. Don't say that. I love you. Always loved you. I love you too, so much. So you're going to stay, you're going to hold on, and we're going to get out of this hell together. Rafael kissed his forehead, not caring who saw. Together, you hear? Like it was always meant to be. The medical helicopter arrived 10 minutes later. Rafael refused to let go of Gabriel, climbing into the helicopter with him, holding his hand throughout the flight to the field hospital. It was only when the doctors forced Rafael out of the operating room that he realized what he had done. His reaction, the cries of despair, the kiss on the forehead, everything had been seen by dozens of soldiers, including Captain Harris. But at that moment, Rafael didn't care. Let them come. Let them find out. Gabriel was alive, and that was all that mattered. Gabriel stayed in the field hospital for 3 weeks. The bullet had pierced muscle but missed major arteries. He was lucky. He would have an ugly scar and lose some mobility in his shoulder, but he would live. Rafael visited whenever he could, which wasn't often. The missions continued. The war waited for no one. But when he visited, he sat beside Gabriel's bed and they talked in code, knowing that nurses and other patients could hear. How are you feeling today, comrade? Better. The doctors say I'll be able to return to service soon. Good news. But his eyes said otherwise. His eyes said, I miss you. I wake up in the middle of the night remembering you bleeding. I have nightmares that came too late. And I know. Me too. But I'm here. We're alive. That's enough. It was in the second week that a Brazilian lieutenant colonel named Oliveira came to visit Gabriel. He was one of the senior officers in the Brazilian contingent, known for being fair but strict. Lieutenant Santos, I need to speak with you. Oliveira waited for the others to leave the area. About Lieutenant Mendez. Gabriel's blood ran cold. Sir, there are rumors about the nature of the relationship between you two. Captain Harris made some serious allegations. Oliveira studied Gabriel. Normally, such allegations would result in an immediate court-martial. However, Gabriel waited, his heart pounding. However, Oliveira continued, Lieutenant Mendez saved your life, and you saved his. And before that, you saved Vietnamese civilians who would have been killed in a questionable bombing. I've spoken to men in your platoons. Everyone, without exception, speaks of you with the utmost respect. They say you are the best officers they've ever known, that you take care of your troops, that you risk everything to do what is right. He sat heavily. So I'm in a difficult situation. There are allegations without concrete evidence. There are 2 exemplary officers. And there's a war going on that needs every good man we can keep. Gabriel didn't know what to say. Here's what's going to happen, Oliveira said. When you recover, you'll both be transferred to different units. You won't work together again. You'll keep an appropriate distance. And these allegations will be filed as unproven. But Lieutenant Santos, if I hear anything again, I won't be able to protect you. Is that clear? Perfectly, sir. And thank you. Don't thank me. Just survive this damn war and go back home. Oliveira stood up to leave, then stopped. And Lieutenant? For what it's worth, in a better world. Well, in a better world, many things would be different. He left, leaving Gabriel alone with a mixture of relief and despair. They were safe, but they would be separated. The transfer happened as soon as Gabriel was discharged from the hospital. Rafael was sent north, working on operations near the border with Laos. Gabriel stayed in the Mekong Delta, now in more administrative roles due to his injured shoulder. They didn't see each other for 8 months. 8 months of waking up not knowing if the other was alive. 8 months of hearing casualty lists and feeling their hearts stop until they confirmed that their name wasn't on them. 8 months of living half alive. The coded letters continued, but now even more carefully. Gabriel wrote to his sister, "The weather here remains unbearable. I miss the mountains back home, the fresh air. Do you remember our special place on the farm? The one we used to go to when we were kids? I think about it every day and it gives me the strength to keep going. Meaning, I miss you terribly. I remember our moments together and they keep me alive." Rafael wrote to his brother, "I made a friend here, an American soldier who plays guitar. He taught me a song about 2 travelers who parted ways but vowed to meet again at the end of the road. I can't stop singing it. Meaning, I haven't given up on us. We will meet again." Gabriel discovered that putting feelings on paper, even coded ones, was a form of therapy. He began to write more, not just letters but poems, reflections. He described the war not as heroic or noble, but as tragedy. He described soldiers crying at night, burned villages, the absurd futility of it all. And he described love. Secret love, forbidden love, love that persisted despite everything. He never named Rafael, always using metaphors. The star that guides me, the reason I wake up, the dream I can't forget. He didn't know that these words would one day be published, that they would become an important testimony of the LGBTQIA+ experience in times of war. At that moment, he was writing only to survive. December 1970. By a bureaucratic miracle, or perhaps by Lieutenant Colonel Oliveira pulling strings behind the scenes, Gabriel and Rafael received 2 weeks' leave at the same time. They met in Bangkok, Thailand. Neutral ground. A city where 2 Brazilian soldiers could go unnoticed in the crowd of military personnel of various nationalities, enjoying time off from the war. Gabriel arrived first, checking into a modest hotel in the Sukhumvit district. Every minute waiting for Rafael was agony. What if he didn't come? What if something had happened? What if he had changed his mind? Then, at 7 o'clock in the evening, there was a knock at the door. Gabriel opened it and there was Rafael. Thinner, older, a new scar across his left eyebrow. But alive. Real. There. They stood there for an interminable moment, just staring, hardly believing it. Then Rafael came in, closed the door, and they hugged. Tightly. Desperately. As if they could merge their bodies into one. "You're here," Gabriel whispered, tears wetting Rafael's shoulder. "You're really here. Where else would I be?" Rafael held his face. "Gabriel, in these months away from you, I realize that no matter how hard it is, no matter what we have to do, I can't live without you. I don't just want to survive. I want to live. And living means being with you." They kissed, and it was like breathing for the first time in months. Like waking up from a nightmare. Like coming home. Those 2 weeks in Bangkok were paradise in the middle of hell. They were just two men in love, without uniforms, without ranks, without fear. They walked hand in hand through the busy streets where nobody knew them. They ate in small restaurants. They laughed. God, how they laughed. Gabriel had forgotten what Raphael's laughter sounded like. They visited Buddhist temples, where a monk told them that true love transcends all barriers, all lives. "You two have souls connected," he said, unaware of how true it was. "Take good care of it. It's rare and precious." That night, in the hotel room, they made love and then talked until dawn. Raphael spoke about his missions, about the horrors he had witnessed, about the man he had become. Gabriel shared his poems, his voice trembling as he read words he had written on lonely nights. "They're beautiful," Raphael said when Gabriel finished reading. "You have to keep these. You have to publish them someday. No one will want to read about two men. Someday they will. Maybe not now, but someday. The world will change, Gabriel. It has to change. And when it does, stories like ours will matter. They will show other people like us that they are not alone." "Do you really believe the world will change?" Raphael took his hand. "I have to believe. Otherwise, why are we fighting so hard to survive? There has to be a future where we can be ourselves." On their last day, they went to a small jewelry store. They bought 2 simple silver rings. They couldn't wear them publicly, but each placed the ring on a chain around their neck, hidden under their shirt, close to their heart. "With this ring, I marry you," Gabriel whispered in the hotel room that last night. "In front of God, if not in front of men. You are my husband, Rafael Mendez." "And you are mine," Rafael replied, tears in his eyes. "Forever. No matter how long it takes, no matter what we have to face. We are one." They made love one last time before they had to return to the war, and Gabriel treasured every sensation, every sound, every moment in his memory like a treasure. At the airport, they said goodbye with a formal handshake, like comrades. But their eyes said everything their lips couldn't. "See you at home," Gabriel said. "See you at home," Rafael agreed. Neither of them knew it would be almost a year before they saw each other again. 1971 was the worst year. The war was ending, everyone knew, but no one wanted to be the last to die in a lost cause. The missions became more desperate, more dangerous. Rafael was on an operation near the Cambodian border when his platoon was surrounded. 3 days of intense combat, no supplies, no rescue. Of the 15 men, only 5 survived. Rafael was one of them, but he came out different. Gabriel didn't learn of the incident until 2 weeks later, when he received a letter, not from Rafael, but from Rafael's brother, saying that Rafael was in a hospital in Saigon, wounded but stable. Gabriel moved heaven and earth to get permission to visit him. When he finally arrived at the hospital, what he found broke his heart. Rafael was physically intact. A few cuts, a few bruises, nothing permanent. But his eyes were empty. He had what would later be called PTSD, but at that time it was just combat trauma or, more cruelly, cowardice. "Rafael," Gabriel whispered, sitting beside the bed. "It's me. It's Gabriel." Rafael looked at him but seemed to look right through him. "I saw all the terrible things I did," he said in a monotone voice. All the men I killed. They came to visit me. They said there's no redemption for people like me. Monsters. Murderers. No, you're not a monster. You're a good man in an impossible situation. And what do? What are we? It's sin. It's wrong. Maybe all this is punishment. Look at me. Gabriel took Rafael's face in his hands, forcing him to focus. Look at me. What we feel for each other isn't sin. It's the only pure and good thing in all this hell. It's what keeps us human. Do you understand? Do you love me? For a long moment, nothing. Then, slowly, tears began to stream down Rafael's face. I love you so much it hurts, he whispered. I love you so much I'm scared. Because if something happens to you, if I lose you, there's nothing left. You are everything. And you are everything to me. So let's hold on to each other. Let's get through this. A few more months and we'll go home. We'll start our real life. Gabriel spent 3 days by Rafael's side, talking to him, reminding him of who he was, bringing him back from the darkness. It wasn't easy. Rafael had nightmares, panic attacks, moments where he seemed lost in memories. But slowly he came back. The spark returned to his eyes. He smiled, small, fragile, but real. Let's get out of here, Rafael said on the last day before Gabriel had to return to his unit. When it's over, we'll go far away and never look back. I promise, Gabriel said, holding his hand under the covers where no one could see. Our apartment in Sao Paulo. Our life. Our freedom. It's almost time. The Brazilian contingent was withdrawn from Vietnam in March 1972. Officially, the mission was considered a success. An absurd assessment for anyone who was actually there. Of the 850 men sent, 127 died, 340 were wounded, and countless others left with psychological scars they would carry for the rest of their lives. Gabriel and Rafael were among the survivors. The flight back to Brazil was surreal. Young soldiers who had left full of ideas about honor and duty returned silently, staring into nothingness, startled by loud noises. There was no welcome parade, no celebration. The Brazilian military government wanted to forget its poorly planned participation in the Vietnam War as quickly as possible. Gabriel and Rafael sat on opposite sides of the plane. They didn't look at each other once during the 20-hour flight, but both frequently touched the ring hidden under their shirts. The military dictatorship in Brazil was at its peak in 1972. Repression, censorship, disappearances of dissidents. For two men with a dangerous secret, it was a terrifying environment. Gabriel was assigned to an administrative post in Rio de Janeiro. Rafael was sent to Brasilia, separated again, but at least now without the daily risk of death. They communicated through careful phone calls from public payphones, quick meetings in intermediate cities, letters that seemed to be between old war buddies. I can't take it anymore, Rafael said in one of their secret meetings, 6 months after they returned. They were in a seedy motel in Belo Horizonte, halfway between Rio and Brasilia. I didn't survive that hell to live this lie. I want to wake up with you. I want to have breakfast with you. I want to have a real life. Me too. But you know what happens if we get caught? Court-martial. Prison. Our families. So we asked to be discharged. We left the army. They can't arrest us for who we are if we're no longer under military jurisdiction. It was risky, dangerous, but it was also possible. It took a year of planning. They needed impeccable documentation, legitimate reasons for leaving the service, and a place to go where they could start over. In 1974, both Gabriel and Rafael received honorable discharges from the army. Gabriel claimed ongoing problems with his injured shoulder. True. Rafael claimed he needed to care for his sick mother. A lie, but accepted. They moved to Sao Paulo, to a small apartment in the Bela Vista neighborhood. Officially, there were 2 beds, but only one was used. Neighbors were told they were cousins sharing expenses. Gabriel got a job as a Portuguese teacher at a high school. Rafael worked in an architecture office as a draftsman. They weren't the brilliant careers they could have had, but they were honest jobs. They were theirs. For the first time in their lives, they could live together. Not openly, that was still impossible, but together, They woke up in the same apartment. They had coffee together. They walked home from work to each other. It was the little moments that meant the most. Rafael humming while cooking. Gabriel correcting papers at the kitchen table while Rafael drew. Them sharing the newspaper on Sunday mornings. Watching television cuddled up on the sofa when they were sure the curtains were properly closed. "That's it," Gabriel said one night, lying in bed with his head on Rafael's chest. "That's what we dreamed of in Bangkok. Our simple life. It's perfect," Rafael agreed, kissing his hair. "Even having to hide it, even all the precautions. It's worth it. You're worth every second of fear." But the fear was constant. They developed an elaborate system of precautions. Always keep 2 beds made as if they were used. Never show affection in public, not even lingering glances. Invent fictitious girlfriends when coworkers asked. Have ready explanations for why they always did things together. We're cousins. We save money by splitting expenses. We share interests. Never mention each other in contexts that might seem suspicious. It was exhausting, but it was life. And after the war, life, even a life of partial lies, seemed like a miracle. It was through a bookstore in Pinheiros that they discovered they weren't alone. The bookstore discreetly sold foreign literature on alternative themes, code for LGBT literature. The owner, a middle-aged man named Antonio, recognized something in Gabriel and Rafael as they nervously leafed through a translation of James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. "There's a meeting," Antonio whispered, pretending to recommend a book. "Every 3rd Friday. The address is written inside the cover." That's how they discovered Sao Paulo's underground LGBT community. Secret meetings in apartments, codes and passwords to get in, always the fear of police raids, but also the incredible relief of being among people like them. There, for the first time, Gabriel and Rafael could be open. They could dance together. They could kiss without looking over their shoulders. They met other couples who lived the same necessary lies. They found friendship, solidarity, community. It was at one of these gatherings that they met Marta and Sylvia, a lesbian couple who had been living together for 10 years under the guise of college friends sharing an apartment. Marta was a lawyer, Sylvia a university professor. They became close friends with Gabriel and Rafael. "You guys are lucky," Marta said one night, when the 4 of them were having dinner at Gabriel and Rafael's apartment. "At least you have each other. You know each other's stories. Many of us have to hide even from our families, living completely double lives." "I don't know if we're lucky," Gabriel said. "Sometimes I feel like we survived hell only to live in a smaller prison." "But it's a prison you chose," Sylvia said gently. "And one day, maybe not in our lifetimes, but one day it won't be like this anymore. There will be a generation that will be able to love openly." "Do you really believe that?" Rafael asked. "I have to believe it. Otherwise, what's the point of it all?" These friendships became vital. When Gabriel had nightmares about the war, waking up sweating and screaming, it wasn't just Rafael who comforted him. It was also Marta and Sylvia, who understood trauma even when it came from different sources. When Rafael had bad days, when depression left him unable to get out of bed, they had a support network that understood without judgment. May 1975. A neighbor started asking questions. Mrs. Conceição lived in the apartment next door. She was a widow, alone, and apparently had a lot of time to observe other people's lives. She noticed that Gabriel and Rafael did everything together. She noticed that they never brought women home. She noticed glances, small gestures that people without the same secret wouldn't see, but which she, with her prejudices and suspicions, interpreted correctly. She started making comments. "You cousins are very close, aren't you?" in a tone that wasn't casual. "I've never seen you with girlfriends. You're too old to get married." Sidelong glances, expressions of disgust. Then one night they heard her at the door trying to listen. They saw her shadow through the crack under the door. "She's going to report us," Rafael said, panic in his voice. "She'll tell the police, and they'll come, and we'll be arrested or worse. Calm down. Let's think." Gabriel forced his own voice to be steady. "We need a plan." The plan came from Marta. "Get girlfriends," she said. "Real ones this time. Women who know and agree to help. I know some. Some couples have marriages of convenience. That's how they met Beatriz and Fernanda. Two lesbian women in a similar situation, needing protection through apparent heterosexual relationships. An arrangement was proposed. Gabriel would date Beatriz. Rafael would date Fernanda. They would make public appearances together, visit each other's families, keep up appearances. In private, in the safe apartments of the community, the four became close friends. They laughed at the absurdity of it all. But they also supported each other through the constant pain of having to hide. Mrs. Conceição seemed pleased when she saw Gabriel with Beatriz, Rafael with Fernanda. Her suspicions lessened. Crisis averted. But the emotional cost was enormous. "I hate this," Rafael said one night after a particularly performative dinner where they had to act like two single men just dating their girlfriends. "I hate having to pretend you're not everything to me. I hate that I can't hug you in public, kiss you, tell anyone I love you. I know. I hate it too." Gabriel held him tightly. "But it keeps us safe, keeps us together. One day, Rafael repeated, but his voice was devoid of conviction. The years turned into decades. Gabriel and Rafael built a life that was outwardly conventional. Two cousins living together, occasionally accompanied by their girlfriends, Beatriz and Fernanda. Stable jobs, peaceful lives. But it was a life built on lies. Lies they told to neighbors, co-workers, even their own families. Gabriel's mother died in 1982 without ever knowing the truth about her son. Rafael's father went to his deathbed in 1988, maintaining the illusion that his son would be cured by the military. These were the deaths that Gabriel and Rafael mourned in particular, not only for the loss, but for the lost opportunity to be truly known by those who raised them. The underground LGBT community of São Paulo grew in the 70s and 80s. Secret bars emerged, private parties, a network of people who supported each other against a hostile world. Gabriel and Rafael were part of it, trusted members of a chosen family. It was in this community that they witnessed both joys and tragedies. Couples meeting, love blossoming even in impossible conditions. But also police raids, arrests, people losing jobs, being evicted from their homes, facing violence. A friend of theirs, Marcos, was brutally beaten in 1981 by a group of men who saw him kissing another man. He survived, but lost sight in one eye. The police refused to investigate. Another friend, Diana, was forcibly committed to a psychiatric institution by her family when they discovered she was a lesbian. It took her 3 years to get out, 3 years of treatments that were torture. Each tragedy weighed heavily on Gabriel and Rafael. "It could be us," Rafael would say every time. "At any moment, it could be us." And they were careful, obsessively careful. But careful meant distance. It meant never fully relaxing. It meant that even after decades together, they had to act like strangers in public. 1985 brought a new layer of terror: AIDS. The disease arrived in Brazil and was immediately stigmatized as gay plague. The media called it gay cancer. Politicians said it was divine punishment. People died alone, abandoned by families, fired from jobs, expelled from hospitals. The LGBT community of São Paulo was devastated. Friends that Gabriel and Rafael had known for years began to wither away. Secret meetings became vigils beside hospital beds, trying to give dignity to people whom the world had decided to discard. Marta contracted HIV in 1987. No one ever knew how she and Sylvia were monogamous, but she could have contracted it from a blood transfusion, from a contaminated needle at the dentist, in any number of ways. But the stigma was the same. Gabriel, Rafael, Sylvia, and Beatriz cared for Marta in her last 2 years. She died in 1989, weighing 40 kilos, blind, but surrounded by love. Her family refused to attend the funeral. They said she had brought shame. "How can the world be so cruel?" Sylvia cried at the tiny funeral. "She was kind. She was brilliant. She helped so many people. And she died treated like trash." Gabriel had no answer. He just held Sylvia while she cried, and Rafael held him, and Beatriz held them all. Chosen family, holding each other's pieces as the world tried to break them. AIDS also brought something unexpected: activism. LGBT people, facing extinction, decided they wouldn't die in silence. Organizations sprang up. Protests happened. It was dangerous. It could cost jobs, families, freedom. But it was necessary. Gabriel and Rafael, now in their 40s, were too old and too careful to be on the front lines. But they contributed what they could. Money to aid organizations, their apartment as a meeting point, Gabriel using his writing skills for anonymous pamphlets. Maybe, Rafael said one night, watching young activists planning a demonstration in his apartment, maybe Sylvia was right. Maybe the world really will change. Maybe, Gabriel agreed, but not fast enough for us. The year 2000 arrived with new millennium celebrations, predictions that everything would change. For Gabriel and Rafael, now 55, changes had been gradual but real. The military dictatorship had ended in 1985. Brazil was a democracy again. There were more open LGBT spaces, not many and still dangerous but existing. LGBT pride parades were beginning to happen in Sao Paulo, small at first but growing. But for two men who had lived decades in hiding, who had built their safety on carefully crafted lies, change was terrifying. Should we go? Rafael asked when the first Sao Paulo LGBT pride parade was announced in 1997. Should we be there? Gabriel, we're almost 53 years old. We've spent our whole lives hiding. Don't we deserve one day, just one day, to be open? They went. They stayed on the fringes of the crowd, caps pulled down, sunglasses on. But they were there. And when they saw thousands of people, thousands, marching openly, proudly, Gabriel felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Hope. Look, he whispered to Rafael, tears streaming down his face. Look how many of us there are. We're not alone. Rafael took his hand in public for the first time in 35 years and held it tightly. We were never alone. We were just made to believe we were. They didn't join the march that year, but they watched. And the next year they went again. And the next. In 2001, for the first time they marched. Not at the front, not carrying banners or shouting slogans. But in the midst of the crowd, two gray-haired souls held hands, weeping for lost time but grateful for the time they had. Gabriel was 60 years old, as was Rafael. Officially retired, they still lived in their apartment in Sao Paulo. Beatriz had moved years ago, marrying Fernanda in a private ceremony when civil unions for same-sex couples began to be recognized in some places. Sylvia had moved to Portugal, where there was more acceptance. It was Beatriz who planted the seed. Have you ever thought about telling your families? The remaining members. Why? Rafael asked. What would that change now? It would change that you wouldn't die with this secret. It would change that your families would really know you. Gabriel had 2 nieces. Rafael had a brother and 3 nephews. None of them knew the truth. Took months of discussion. The fear was deep, rooted in decades of concealment. But finally, they decided. Life was too short to die unknown. They started with Rafael's brother, Lucas. He was 57 years old, had adult children, and had always been the most liberal in the family. They invited Lucas to dinner. They cooked his favorite food. They drank wine. Finally, Gabriel held Rafael's hand across the table and said, Lucas, there's something we need to tell you. Something we've kept hidden for a long time. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Lucas started laughing, not cruelly surprised. You think I didn't know? Man, I suspected it literally 40 years ago. Cousins who lived together their whole lives? Who never got married? Who have girlfriends who never live with you? Rafael was speechless. You knew. I suspected it. But you never said anything, so I figured you had your reasons. And it wasn't my place to force it. Lucas took both their hands. I'm glad you're telling me now. I'm glad to finally meet my real brother. And Gabriel, he turned. I'm glad to officially call you my brother-in-law. They cried. The 3 men sitting at that table cried. Gabriel's nieces had mixed reactions. The oldest, Juliana, was shocked but eventually accepted it. The youngest, Carla, stopped talking to him for 2 years, but eventually came back, saying, "I don't understand, but you're my uncle and I love you." It wasn't perfect, but it was something. It was recognition. It was being seen. In 2011, civil unions between same-sex couples were recognized in Brazil. In 2013, marriage was legalized. Gabriel was 68 years old. Rafael was 68 years old. They had been together for 50 years, longer than most conventional marriages. "Should we get married?" Gabriel asked. "For real this time? Not just our secret vows in Bangkok, but legally. Are you proposing to me, Gabriel Santos?" Gabriel knelt down, his old knuckles protesting, but he insisted and took Rafael's hand. "Rafael Mendez, you saved me. In war, in life, in every way. You are my family, my home, my everything. So yes, I'm asking you, will you marry me?" Rafael pulled him up and kissed him. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. I should have done this 50 years ago. We did 50 years ago. Only the world is finally catching up." The wedding was small. Lucas and his children, Juliana and Carla, Beatriz and Fernanda. Sylvia came from Portugal. Some friends from the community who had survived. But for Gabriel and Rafael, even though it was a small ceremony in a registry office, it was more meaningful than any elaborate celebration could be. It was the legal recognition of something that had always been true. They were one. At the party afterward, in the same apartment where they had lived for decades, Lucas made a toast. "To my brother and my brother-in-law, who survived a war, a dictatorship, prejudice, and hatred, who proved that true love cannot be destroyed, only temporarily hidden, who finally can live their truth openly. Congratulations, and may you have many more years together. Amen," Gabriel and Rafael said together, and sealed it with a kiss. At 70, Rafael began to have memory problems. Small at first, forgetting where he put his keys, repeating stories, but it gradually worsened. Alzheimer's, the doctors said. Early onset, progressive. Gabriel watched, powerless, as the man he loved slowly faded away. Rafael began to forget recent years first. He forgot the wedding. He forgot friends. He forgot decades in Sao Paulo. But he remembered the war. He remembered young Gabriel. He remembered Bangkok, the oath they made. "Where are we?" Rafael asked, confused. "We need to go back to base. They'll catch us if we stay together." "It's okay," Gabriel said gently. "We're safe now. The war is over." "But Gabriel, my mother found out. She said I'm a disgrace. I need to go to the military to get myself fixed." And Gabriel had to relive the pain again, remind him, "There's nothing to fix. You're perfect. And I love you." Sometimes Rafael recognized him. "Gabriel, you're old. What happened? We grew old together, just like we promised. Did we succeed? Did we stay together? Always. 52 years and counting." And Rafael smiled even though he didn't fully understand, because some part of him, the part that mattered, knew it was true. In 2018, while caring for Rafael, Gabriel decided to do something with the poems, diaries, and letters he had kept for decades. He compiled them, edited them, and added context. The result was Letters from War, a love that couldn't speak, published by a small independent publisher specializing in LGBTQIA+ literature. The book wasn't an immediate bestseller, but it found its audience. Older LGBTQIA+ people who saw their own stories reflected. Young people who didn't know the history, the price previous generations paid. Critics praised the brutal honesty, the beauty of the words, the important historical testimony. Gabriel gave interviews, something that would have been unthinkable decades ago. "Why tell it now?" an interviewer asked. "Because Rafael is forgetting," Gabriel said, his voice breaking. "And I need someone to remember. I need the world to know that we exist, that we love, that we matter. I need young LGBTQIA+ people to know that they are not alone, that there were generations before them fighting, loving, surviving." The book won an LGBT Literary Award. Gabriel accepted it with Rafael by his side, in a wheelchair, not fully understanding but smiling because Gabriel was happy. "This is for all those who loved in silence," Gabriel said in his acceptance speech. "For all those who hid who they were to survive. For all those we lost to violence, illness, and despair. You are not forgotten. Your stories matter. Your love mattered." The audience stood, and Gabriel cried, holding Rafael's hand, grateful that at least a piece of his story would be remembered. Rafael worsened. In 2020, he barely recognized Gabriel. He had to be moved to a specialized institution where he could receive 24-hour care. Gabriel visited every day. He sat beside Rafael, held his hand, told stories, even when Rafael didn't respond, even when he looked right through him as if he were a stranger. "Remember Bangkok?" Gabriel would say. "Remember the temples, the street food, the hotel room where we made our vows? You said you would love me in every life. Well, here I am, still loving you, always loving you." Sometimes there were flashes. Rafael would squeeze his hand, smile. Once he whispered, "Gabriel, my Gabriel." But those moments became rarer. The COVID-19 pandemic made everything worse. Visits were prohibited. Gabriel went months without seeing Rafael in person, only through video calls where Rafael would stare confusedly at the screen. "He's asking for you," the nurses would tell Gabriel. Not with words. Rafael had stopped speaking, but with glances at the door, a confused expression, restlessness. When visits were finally allowed again, Gabriel barely recognized the man in the bed. Rafael had lost 15 kilos. His eyes were empty, but when Gabriel entered, something changed. Rafael turned his head. He didn't say anything, but his eyes focused. He really saw Gabriel, and he smiled. "Hi," Gabriel whispered, taking his hand. "I missed you. I missed you so much." Rafael didn't respond with words, but he squeezed Gabriel's hand. And Gabriel knew. Some part of him was still there. The part that mattered. The part that loved. Rafael died in July 2025, at the age of 80. Gabriel was by his side, holding his hand, whispering, "Everything is all right. You can rest now. You fought enough. I love you. I've always loved you. I will always love you." The funeral was bigger than Gabriel expected. Lucas and his family, Gabriel's nieces, Beatriz and Fernanda, friends from the LGBT community, readers of Gabriel's book who had been touched by the story. Gabriel read a poem he had written for Rafael decades ago, his voice trembling but firm. "You were my war and my peace, my fear and my courage, the secret that kept me prisoner, and the truth that set me free. I loved you silently for so long that I almost forgot what it was like to love aloud. But you taught me again. You taught me that love cannot be killed, only hidden, and what is hidden still exists, waiting to bloom. So thank you for all the stolen years, all the secret moments, all the whispered promises. They were enough. You were enough. We are enough. And when I follow you, as I eventually will, I hope there will be a place where we can love openly, finally free." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Gabriel is 80 years old now, in October 2025. 3 months without Rafael. Some days are unbearable. He wakes up hoping to see Rafael by his side. He cooks coffee for 2 before remembering. He turns to say something and finds only empty space. But he continues. For Rafael. For all those who loved in secret. For all those who are loving now. He gives talks in schools about LGBTQIA+ history. He visits LGBT youth groups, telling his story, offering hope. He has started writing a second book. Not just about him and Rafael, but about the community that kept them alive, the chosen family that saved them. "Mr. Santos," a young man asked at a recent talk, "if you could change something, what would you change?" Gabriel thought for a long moment. "I wouldn't change knowing you," he finally said. "I wouldn't change loving him. That was perfect. But I would change the world that forced us to hide. I would change it so that we could have had 62 open years instead of just 12. I would change it so that no young person has to hide who they love, has to choose between security and authenticity." He looked at the audience of high school students, so young, so many possibilities. You have something I didn't have at your age. Possibility. It's not perfect yet. There's still a lot of hate, a lot of prejudice. But there's more space for you to be yourselves. Don't waste it. Live openly. Love loudly. Don't let fear steal your years. A young woman raised her hand. Do you have any regrets? Gabriel touched the ring on his chain. He still wears it, along with his wedding ring. Just one. That we didn't have more time. But time is a funny thing. 52 years can seem short when you love someone. But every moment we had, every stolen second, every secret whisper, it was precious. It was real. And no one can take that away from us. He pauses. Rafael used to say that our love would save someone someday. That our story would show other people like us that they are not alone. So yes, it would change a lot about how we had to live. But it wouldn't change having lived. It wouldn't change having loved. And I hope, I pray, that telling our story makes a difference to someone here. That it makes you feel less alone. More courageous. More hopeful. It does, the young woman said, tears in her eyes. Very much so. Thank you for sharing. November 2025. Gabriel is in his apartment, the same one where he lived with Rafael for 5 decades. He should move, it's too big for one person, too full of memories. But he can't. Every corner has a story. Every object has meaning. He's organizing documents for his second book when he finds the coffee tin buried so long ago. Inside, the unsent letters from Vietnam. He reads them, crying and laughing at the same time. There's a knock at the door. It's Carla, his youngest niece, the one who took the longest to accept it. She brings her 16-year-old son, Miguel. Uncle Gabriel, she says hesitantly. Miguel has something to tell you. The teenager looks terrified. Gabriel knows that look. He saw it in the mirror 62 years ago. You can call me Mig, the young man says softly. And I'm gay. I'm telling you because I read your book and realized that if you manage to survive all that, maybe I can survive being 16 and being myself. Gabriel gets up, goes to the young man, and hugs him tightly. You're going to more than survive, he whispers. You're going to thrive, and you'll never, ever have to hide like I did. I promise to help you with that. Thank you, Mig cries into his shoulder. I was so scared. I thought my family was going to hate me. Never, Carla says, also crying. I was an idiot with your uncle. I let prejudice blind my love. I won't make the same mistake with you. I love you, exactly as you are. Gabriel looks at the two of them, 3 generations of family, and feels something extraordinary. Hope. Real, tangible hope. Later, when they are alone, Mig asks, what was it like? Hiding for so long? Gabriel considers. It was survival. You do what you need to live. But it was also, he searches for the right words. It was dying a little every day. It was love lived in whispers. It was stolen joy. It was constant fear. But you know what else it was? It was Rafael. And he was worth every second of pain. Do you still miss him? Every second of every day. But I also feel gratitude. We've had 5 decades together. Against all odds, we built a life. And in the end, we managed to live openly, even if only for a few years. Many of our generation never even had that. Your book is helping a lot of people. There are online reading groups, people sharing their own stories. Do you know about this? Gabriel didn't know. He's not very good with the internet. Really? Seriously? There's even a hashtag. Hashtag loves that couldn't be. People posting about relationships hidden from their lives, from family members, LGBTQIA+ stories that were erased. It's like a movement. Gabriel feels tears. Rafael was right. Their story was making a difference. That night, alone, Gabriel writes one last letter. Not to Rafael, Rafael is gone, but to all those who will come after. For you who are reading this, if you are young and LGBTQIA+ and afraid, you are not alone. There were generations of us before you, loving in secret, fighting to survive, paving the way. The world is not perfect yet, but it is better. And it will get better because you exist. If you are old and LGBTQIA+ and have lived in hiding, your story matters. Your love matters. You survived something unimaginable. You are stronger and braver than the world will ever know. And it is never too late to live your truth. If you are an ally, thank you. Thank you for seeing our humanity. Thank you for fighting with us. We need you. Continue to be a voice for those who cannot yet speak. Rafael Mendez was the love of my life. We met when we were young and scared, in a world that told us we were wrong. We survived a literal war only to face a metaphorical war at home. We hid for decades. We lost precious years to fear. But we also had this love that crossed battles. Love that survived separation. Love that persisted through decades of hiding. Love that, in the end, the world had to acknowledge because it was undeniable. Don't waste your lives waiting for the world to change completely. Love. Be authentic. Yes, there is still danger. Yes, there is still hate. But there is also beauty, community, joy. Rafael taught me that true love cannot be killed, can only be hidden temporarily. And what is hidden still exists, waiting for the right moment to bloom. That moment is now. For you. Bloom. With love and hope. Gabriel Santos. November 2025 inch. He posts the letter online with Mig's help. It spreads. It is shared thousands of times. People comment with their own stories. Young people say it gave them courage. Older people say it gave them validation. And Gabriel, at 80 years old, realizes that his life, all the pain, all the fear, all the joy had meaning. He and Rafael loved when it was dangerous to do so. They survived when many did not. And now, their story is helping others to survive, to thrive, to love openly. It's December now. Gabriel is in his apartment, looking at old photos. Young Rafael in uniform. Them in Bangkok, stolen smiles. Wedding photo finally free. The last photo, Rafael in his wheelchair. Gabriel beside him. Both old but still clearly in love. He touches the photo. "We did it, my love," he whispers. "You said our story would save someone. And it is." Young people are reading about us and realizing they can survive. Older people are reading and realizing they weren't alone. The world is changing. Slowly, but changing. He closes his eyes and for a moment, just a moment, feels Rafael beside him. Not a hallucination. Not a wish. Just presence. The feeling of a love so deep it transcends even death. "I love you," he whispers. "I've always loved you. I will always love you. In this life and in all others." And somewhere, on some plane of existence beyond comprehension, perhaps Rafael whispers back, "I know, and so do I. We are eternal, my Gabriel. Love like ours never dies." Gabriel opens his eyes. He is alone in the apartment. But he is not alone. He has memories. He has a story that matters. He has a legacy that will live on beyond him. And perhaps, just perhaps, he has proven that love, true, deep, authentic love, can survive anything. Even war. Even prejudice. Even death. Because love like theirs isn't just about two people. It's about everyone who came before and everyone who will come after. It's about every young LGBTQIA+ person who feels alone and finds hope in a story. It's about every older person who lived in hiding and finally feels seen. It's about the fundamental truth that Gabriel and Rafael proved with their lives. Love is stronger than fear. Love is stronger than hate. Love is stronger than even death. And this truth, passed down from generation to generation, is how we change the world. One love story at a time. One courageous heart at a time. One authentically lived life at a time. This story is dedicated to all the loves that couldn't speak. To the LGBT soldiers who served in silence. To the generations who lived in hiding. To those who didn't survive to see better days. Your stories matter. Your love mattered. You matter. And to you watching this video now, if you are LGBTQIA+, you are not alone. There have been generations of us fighting so that you could live more freely. And although there is still work to be done, each day we bring more light to the shadows. Live openly. Love loudly. Be authentic. You deserve it.